What were your parents' names?
My parents were Charles and Louise Van Buren. My father was from the East. My mother was born in St. Louis.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one sister 1 year younger than
What was her name?
Marion.
Were there any important events when you were younger?
Well, I remember when I went to high school, one of my friends had a Ford coupe, and very few people had an automobile to drive to school. Her name was Eleanor Wardeman, and she was a great big girl in that little tiny car. And we used to swing around the curves on the avenues to school. And I thought it would be wonderful to have a car like that all my own. Another important thing was World War I. And I remember how I used to, with a group of young women, knit socks for the soldier boys.
Do you have any kids?
After I married, I had 5 children.
And how many boys and girls?
My oldest is a daughter, and I have 4 sons.
Thank you for letting me interview you, and we're now saying goodbye to Arline Owen.
Thank you, Beth Owen.
This is Beth Owen interviewing John H. Owen on February 20th, 1977. Where were you born?
I was born in Plainfield, New Jersey.
And did you move around a lot when you were young?
Yes, quite a lot.
Where?
What do you want, the whole deal?
What do you want to say?
Well, I was born in New Jersey, Plainfield, moved to White House, moved to Bay Minette, Alabama, looked that up in the geography, moved to Pittsburgh, moved to Detroit, moved to Joliet, moved to Sharon, Pennsylvania, moved to Seattle, Washington, moved to St. Louis, moved to Chicago, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
What were your parents' names?
My Ma and Pa. You mean the real name?
Yeah.
William and Edith.
And did you have any brothers or sisters?
I had one brother and one sister.
And what were their names?
Their names were William Miller and Mary Edith.
Were they older or younger than
William Miller was older, Mary Edith was younger, but she died.
you? Were there any important events when you were young?
Hundreds of them.
I'll just say a couple of really important
Well, when I was young, how young is young?
events. Well, just one.
Well, I think that some of the important events was when we were living in Alabama, and one of the first so-called long-distance airplane flights was made,
Who made the flight?
and the airplane came over our house in Bay Minette, Alabama, out in the boondocks there. It was like a crate, like Orville Wright used, and that was 1912. I was a little kid then, littler than you, if you don't mind. And the plane went down to Mobile and landed, but it had to make a bunch of stops from New York to Mobile, and it was very, very interesting. Oh, lots of other things. And when we lived in Alabama, we had a big black guy that was to take care of my brother and I. That's Miller, William Miller. And he used to do a lot of things for us. Very, very good. He made us all sorts of things. Toys, took care of us so the wild animals in the area didn't chew us up. But he made us wagons out of, we sawed off thin slices of trees for the wheels, and it was very, very good. And he made us, I remember one time he made us a nice birdhouse, set it up way up on a high pole. And one day we went by there and he heard some squealing up in the pole, way up at the top in the birdhouse. He said, "There's a snake up there." He said, "We're going to get that snake out of there." So what did he do? He got a long pole and he tacked a little piece of wood on the end of it. He got some sulfur. He poured it on the end of that little slab, and he lit the sulfur. And he raised it up to the birdhouse. Now sulfur, when it burns, makes sulfuric acid. And nobody can, not even an animal can stand that. So the first thing you know, down this pole comes this big snake. And all the way down. When it got down to the ground, he smacked it right between the eyes. And do you know what? The snake died. Then what do you think he did? He slit open its belly. And do you know what happened then? About 3 little birds flopped out. Little tiny birds. Now this is true. This is no fairy tale.
Are they dead?
Yeah, they're practically dead, yeah. But this was very interesting. I was very interested that he knew what to do. Now, is there anything else you want to know?
I heard lots of people saying that you knew you had seen Lindbergh.
Oh, many times, many times. You mean Charles Lindbergh, the aviator?
Yeah.
Well, he was from St. Louis, and he was in the Air National Guard. My brother, as you may remember from previous broadcasts, was named William Miller. My brother William Miller was in the Air National Guard that Lindbergh, Charles Lindbergh, was in. And so, they were pretty good friends. And one day Lindbergh said that he was going to be the person that was going to fly from New York to Paris nonstop. And he was going to collect the $25,000 that was offered for the first person that would do this. And you know the answer. He did it. But he told his friend, see, he went out to San Diego. That's where the plane was built that he was going to fly. It was known as the Ryan Aircraft Company, one of the few companies that was building a plane. But he told his friends in the Air Guard, Air National Guard, that he was going to fly into St. Louis at a certain time. And so a lot of people, a lot of his friends, I mean like 4 or 5, were out at the airport at St. Louis waiting for him, but it was a bad day. It was very rainy and foggy, and they figured there's no way that this man could get into the airport anywhere near the time that he said he was going to be there, let alone come in on that day because of the bad weather. But lo and behold, while they were cogitating on what would happen, he pulled out of the cloud, and this is a very low cloud, and landed in the airport and said, "Hi, boys." And the way he did it, he knew he was in bad weather. He knew he couldn't fly way up above. The instruments weren't so good then. But he was so familiar with the territory that he flew real low over the Missouri River until he got to the point that he recognized as what was was known then as Lambert Field. When he got to that point, he turned off and landed, and that was where they were waiting for him. So, the next day, I went out to see his plane, and to see him, and of course we were right there by the plane, we were right by him and all. That was the last time that I could get anywhere near him because of the crowds. And the reason was that when he left St. Louis, he went to New York, and from New York, he took off for Paris, and he made it successfully. And after that, he was a world figure, and massive crowds were around him at all times. A very fine guy. He didn't say when he got to Paris, they wanted to pay him a lot of money to say, give me a Camel cigarette, or give me this kind of a cigar, or this kind of brew. All he said was, I'd like a glass of milk. And this was very important. This was very good. That's the kind of a guy he was. Now, is there anything else you'd like to know?
No. Thank you very much for letting me interview you. And we're now saying goodbye to John H. Owen. And thanks for letting me.